think I wished everyone a Happy New Year last Monday. It seems like we go very quickly for our Mondays. Huh? I think we had a meeting last Monday. So welcome again. Could I please get a motion to approve the minutes of last Monday, January 11th? Supervisor Strauss, second by Supervisor Montesi. All in favor? Aye. So I think Ed is going to be primarily responsible for this meeting. I think the great thing about this committee is that we always deal with real facts, okay, as opposed to alternative facts. That's the great thing about America and democracy. So.
What's an alternative?
I don't know if you saw Meet the Press yesterday morning, but Ms. Conway, who is the spokesperson for our president, talked in terms of a set of alternative facts. Okay, so I had the same question when that came out of her mouth, Ron. That's an excellent observation on your part. Okay.
What did you say, Ron? What's an alternative?
He wanted to know what an alternative. That's what I said. But,
so this is
apparently Ms. Conway thought there were alternative facts. So whatever.
Fake news here.
And it all dealt with the attendance at the inauguration parade. Nonsense. Everybody, we all know there's exaggerations of attendance and crowds at every event.
Of course.
Between the police count and depending if it's a pro or anti-police rally is going to be high or low.
You don't have to do that around here.
No, absolutely.
No, you can just use the real facts, and they're pretty outstanding.
And there was a very large demonstration in Glens Falls yesterday, and Ed indicated that he thought there were 1,500 people at that. Supervisor Beatty told me earlier that no, there was 1,200 people there, and I thought there was probably a couple of thousand.
I said no, I believe it'll be 20,000 by the end of the day. That's what I said.
Were
they watching football?
That was a Steelers game, wasn't it?
What I'd like to do this morning is kind of review 2016 as well as look ahead in 2017 most importantly. And we will be having a few PowerPoints going through this thing. The key strategy for 2017, and we'll go ahead because we're in 2017 and 2016 is in the books, but 2017 we want to continue EDC's role as being what we consider a major economic development advocate for our county and the upstate region. And that includes advocating for the private business sector and institutions and communities looking for funding assistance to retain and grow investment and jobs. Also, we want to continue to be an advocate for local municipalities and communities for infrastructure projects. And we recognize the need of infrastructure projects ranging from the need for a regional wastewater new facility to be constructed in Lake George. Lake George is committing to about half of that project of $9 million. And so Mayor Blaze and we join in his request to the state of looking for considerable funding because we know that without a new wastewater treatment plant, the lake environmentally will suffer. And equally important is the tourism will continue to move the other direction if something is not done. I'm confident that there will be money at some point during 2017 that will assist Lake George in the region. Equally important in infrastructure is our need of broadband in unserved and underserved areas. We were very pleased last year to have Senator Gillibrand come to Glens Falls and make an announcement of her bipartisan legislation in increase in funding for broadband that will serve the unserved and underserved. A week after that, we had the opportunity to meet with Congresswoman Stefanik, and she immediately on the spot agreed to sponsor Senator Gillibrand's legislation. She has now gone out and got Democratic support in the House, so again, I feel in that particular area there is bipartisan support from the Senate and the House of Representatives, where I think that we are going to be able to make some improvements in our broadband coverage this year. Earlier this year, Governor Cuomo's program of New York Connect had its first impact in Warren County. over 400 residential units, homes in the hamlet of North Creek are going to be served. Currently, they have no access to broadband in the downtown area, and 400 of those homes will be contributed partly by state money and the remainder by Frontier Communications. That's a small little push in the county. On the bigger picture is that we are looking to take that same Governor Cuomo's program along with the program that Senator Gillibrand has talked about from USDA and the E-rate program, and make some substantial strides in other areas of northern Warren County and western Warren County. You know, looking at the issues up in, I think every week I get at least one letter from the people around Brant Lake, and some of the people that are part-time residents, others that are businesses in the area. Same with Chester, and then along the western part of Warren County. So that is really one of our priorities in 2017 and going forward in that particular area. Also, we want to continue to assure that there's a smooth transition in Queensbury, not political, John. Transition with the realm of Grace Note being sold to Nielsen Company. There are 350 technology-based jobs at that company, and it's very important that we do everything we can to ensure the new owners that we will continue to work with them and assist them, whether it's in workforce training, developing some new programs for them, as well as any capital needs or expansion that they have in that area. That sale is expected to be finalized sometime February, March of this year. Another key sector has been the micro device industry in our area in Washington County. We know that the efforts, again, EDC from a local level, working with Senator Schumer and again Congresswoman Stefanik, led the charge to have the 2.3% surcharge on medical device manufacturing suspended last year and this year. In the context of what is transpiring now with the Obamacare, we want to be assured that we can have another impact of either continuing that suspension, or the better alternative would be is to have that 2.3% excise tax abolished in our area. That had an impact on AngioDynamics, on Precision Extrusion, and a couple of other smaller firms in the area. Angio has been using some of that money for research and development that they've saved from that tax, and Precision Extrusion is proceeding to hire 3 to 5 individuals as well. That was a big hole by that suspension in the medical device, losing that revenues from that program. So we'll just have to wait and see where it all fits out there. But we are expressing our desire and support for Senator Schumer and for Congresswoman Stefanik in that particular area. We will continue to work with the City of Glens Falls and the downtown revitalization on the $10 million that the city had received. We want to continue to work, and we agree with the tourism report that came out for the need to reach new markets in our area, specifically the millennium generation, with the need to market experience packages and itineraries in the area.
Hey, just a question on the $10 million. Is there part of that specific? I mean, were the guidelines that said you have to spend so much on planning or something? On that?
No, it's actually 9.7 because the state took off the top $300 for the planners. However, the money has to be spent in the immediate downtown area. You know, and the downtown area is not that huge or sprawling. So essentially, South Street, the Broad Street area, Park Street area, down Warren Street, you know, around the Queensbury Hotel and the Central Business District area. But there's no specific guidelines. They actually prefer, if there's a need for an update planning and capital construction, really the governor wants to leverage the 9.7 into about $25 to $30 million of projects, be it for not-for-profits that will need to either contribute in kind or have a cash contribution, as well as in the private sector.
Well, you know, I always thought that nobody likes to see it because you can't see it, but if they fixed all the pipes in the central downtown area, in the ground,
The city has
that
been
might
doing
be a
that through
pretty
the,
good idea.
number of infrastructure. Glen Street, Warren Street, Bay Street, Hudson Avenue, all have new infrastructure, in that area. South Street as, well. The next step is really making sure, of some separation between storm and sanitary in that area. But there are, the argument with DRI money, is the fact, but for DRI, these projects would never necessarily get done. There are, other funding opportunities for underground, water and sewer through the, Environmental Facilities Corporation for essentially, low-interest loans and sometimes, occasionally, some grant money on a loan forgiveness basis if there's a demonstrated need in a particular area of Glens Falls. So we are planning to expend some monies on Park and Elm for some infrastructure update underground and on School Street, but that will be one segment of that area.
That, pardon me, but there is actually a workshop on Wednesday at 6:30 in Heritage Hall for the DRI. Anybody in the community is welcome. Just want to throw that out there.
That will not be the last workshop. We have to submit the report by February 25th. A list is pretty well coming together. The priority is a couple of things. Number one is to work with the farmers market to have a year-round farmers market. Number two is to continue the effort of mixed-use residential, commercial, and retail business downtown. Also to work with the Adirondack SUNY campus and Dr. Duffy, as well as doing some infrastructure work, as well as creating a low-interest fund for businesses downtown and create and reestablish the infrastructure. So the last public workshop will be on Thursday, February 23rd at 6:30 at Heritage Hall, at which time the list will be compiled and will be submitted by the end of February. The Department of State will review that and make, approve those or make suggestions on that. The city then will be required to develop an application for each of those projects that we enumerate, and then we go forward. I really don't expect projects to get underway until 2018.
So
It's gonna
a
take
year-round farmer's market would mean an enclosed building?
An enclosed, some type of enclosed building. I mean, you can run the gamut from just putting some old garage doors and tacking them on to pavilion to something a little bit more sophisticated, or go the entire length of a very integrated building that has many other uses. I think that the city is looking kind of for middle ground approach for this. You've got to have other uses in that building in order to support that building that would be city-owned and operated. And currently, the farmer's market is there one day a week. They're looking to maybe expand a midweek and maybe have some other functions, but we're looking to expand that into some other programs and work with other cooperatives in the area.
I was in downtown Lancaster last year, and they had that exact same thing.
Yep.
You know, the farmer's market, but all the stores around it.
Yeah, the people have talked about a food hub, but depending on your definition of what a food hub is, a food hub can anything range from the hub on the hill in Essex County, which is really a full manufacturing facility. Our site obviously is not conducive to a full manufacturing in terms of undertaking food processing and so forth in that downtown area. So I think that's another project, but could be located, within the region, and certainly Washington County, I think, is looking at that as well. We also want to continue to focus on one of our key employment strategies, and that is reach out to work with our regional paper mills. Finch Prine has received another grant to undertake a sludge removal component from their operations. Rather than landfilling that sludge, they like to call it paper residual, into a landfill, is to make an alternative process. They've received a $1 million grant of a $5 million project to undertake different alternatives to products, and they're talking about adding up to 10 to 15 jobs for that. Exit 18 and Exit 19 potentially have some additional potential in addition to the recreational facilities and hotel. There are other types of, interest, in that 18-19 area that may involve some medical facilities as well, in that particular area. So that remains a constant growth, and that ties into, what we plan to undertake, and that is a, data collection mapping, through GIS of all of the exits, from 18 to 26 in Warren County. Obviously, 18 and 19 and 20 have some pretty good planning underway and data. As you get further north, we need to be able to identify at exit 25 and 26, ownership of property, the type of land use, whether it's served by water, sewer, the type of utilities, broadband, in the interest of the private sector of willing to sell, and developing some asking price, so that when we get inquiries, we be able to identify within a certain range off of those exits, opportunities for, development, in Warren County that will be then share that information with the respective town supervisors and town planning boards. We will be meeting with the respective, towns as we develop additional criteria that will be shown on maps as well as, data. So, Craig has already reached out to me, and we'll be sitting down with, Chester and all other towns, and perhaps some members of the planning board as well, is to develop the criteria, so that right now we don't have that. We don't know. When we started a couple of years ago with a wood pellet, we had to start from scratch, and immediately talked with Kevin, was very helpful. We went out to the property owners, but you gotta do that all in advance. You just can't wait till the last minute and see what the type of uses the planning board would like to see around a particular exit, in Chester and in Oregon, and put that, together. So we have that data. When we get inquiries, when you get inquiries, you're gonna have kind of a basis of what is available and what we can do in the area. We also, wanna work with, projects that are priority projects, for the respective towns and their projects. We want to continue to, work with Frank on his project in the town of Stony Creek, involving putting together a new library, expanding the museum, as well as working with the trails in the area to make that really a community center, in the town of, Stony Creek. Lake Luzerne has a, project that we've started to do some work on, with a water enhancement project of 2 areas within, the district in Lake Luzerne that is very poor water pressure, old water lines, and so we are working to do that. Matt has taken the lead up in the Horicon Museum in Adirondack, and that's coming along through the support of the town advancing some funds in anticipation of the grant that Senator Little was able to expound upon that. And again, the towns of Thurman, Stony Creek, and Luzerne were successful through Wayne's office in obtaining some additional funds for trail development. The town of Bolton has some trail development and work on the visitors and museum. Town of Johnsburg and Orta, and we are assisting with that development of an agreement on their recreational and property of Johnsburg to work with Orta in their particular areas as well. And so we also have a new loan program that we've talked about that finally is going to be implemented, that we want to make sure that the respective towns, the town supervisors and the town clerks have that, information. So those were our, kind of our 2017 objectives going forward. I think briefly we can go to our little PowerPoint presentation
Hey,
here.
Ed,
Yes.
I just wanted to, let you know, I know, last week we had, we met with, Drew, the board met with Drew Capabianca, the owner of the Hub, and,
Yes.
we helped with, we approved a, request for some occupancy tax towards, a community trail on the 200 acres that they just purchased, and also, for planting and flagging and, for a bike trail, mountain biking trail. So there's some
No, that's
good things
excellent.
happening up there.
And again, I think that we collectively, in working with Wayne and your various planning committees in each of the towns to see how the potential funding that is coming from Governor Cuomo, how that's going to be integrated into that again. We can get some of the details now. It's got to go through the legislative process, which may change some of the rules and regulations, and wait till the funding comes in April. So I would suspect that some planning, and you wouldn't see much activities until 2018 for that. But it's a good good start to do that. And again, that could be utilized for Frank's, consideration of working with the Syracuse University Forestry Foundation and some of the other trails that you have in that area as
Ed, one question, any, movement on Hacker Boat?
Hacker Boat is, continuing to look in the area. Every couple of months, we reach out to see if there's anything that we can be, doing. They seem to be continuing to do very well at their, current location. They have not accessed their, it's been kind of a misinterpretation on whether or not, what kind of incentive they received from the state. It was, tax credits for employments, which they have not accessed at all. It was not an outright grant, but a tax credit for employment, but they have not accessed any of that, money. So, any further than that, you'd have to have, George would have to
I'm just
respond to it. Yeah.
curious.
They
'cause I'm-
continue to look at land within the town of Queensbury, and they've come close twice, but they just have not been able to get to an agreement. One was a building, a fairly substantial building in Queensbury that's been vacant for a number of years, and they were not able to reach an agreement. And then they were looking at a vacant piece of land for construction. Again, that was privately owned, and they weren't able to reach.
Just, I have a couple of observations, and maybe a quick question, Ed. Just as an observation, the Civic Center and the Queensbury Hotel, they look very good, okay? The best that they've looked in many, many years, okay? Being in the Civic Center last week for the Lieutenant Governor, it just, the new scoreboard, the cleanliness, the paint, it just, it looks good. It looks like we're in the game, okay? And the Queensbury, which just is such a stately and almost historic type building, is nice to see that looking really smooth.
Those are two unique projects. Ed Moore and Tyler Herrick formerly worked at the Sagamore, and Zach Moore have done a terrific job. And it used to be, if you drove by there at Queensbury during the midweek, 9, 10 o'clock, it was pretty well vacant, but there is some life and activity, in that facility, which is good. We are continuing to work with them. They want to expand their banquet large meeting room and double their facility from a current 3,000 square feet to another 3,000 square feet, so that they could accommodate over 450 individuals for meeting space right now. We're fairly limited in Warren County for large meeting space, capacity. So this would be really looking into business association and meetings, as well as larger, banquets and larger weddings, if you will. Currently, right now, they're rather limited, and it really does not have the technology of audiovisual that is required for conferences right now. And that's a real sore miss right in our area. Even our newer facilities, quite honestly, need to upgrade some of their facilities with PowerPoint presentations and screens and so forth in the area. That's the next step in the Civic Center. That's one thing that's sadly lacking, is there still is not any decent screenage in Heritage Hall at this point, as well as audio-visual that they have to do if they want to compete for convention business.
And then I had one question, and that has to do with the traffic study at Exit 20. Do we have a kind of a feel for when that may be completed?
That's in the stages of being now reviewed by the Department of Transportation, and that will come back to the committee one more time for review. We want to make sure that we're hitting the points that are necessary, that if there is a desire by the board and the town to proceed after the study with certain funding, that we don't have to go back and do any further updates and so forth, that we've hit the top priority points from a planning point of view and transportation to do that. So we would anticipate that project would be completed this year.
Great, thank you.
Like tomorrow, if John had his way. Done in 2017. So I want to just quickly review this. These are some of the things that we constantly do through our EDC engagement with municipalities and organizations. We continue to work with existing businesses, obviously, because any expansion that we see in this region in upstate New York, 70% of your jobs, new jobs, come from those existing businesses in the area. And you can take a look at your own towns that you have, and you see when there's an uptick in new job creation, generally it is from businesses that are expanding into the area. So we want to make sure that we offer, our services and assistance to those existing businesses, as well as to work with the towns to assist them and planning boards to be sure that everybody is on the same page as to the type of development that you want to see in your respective town. And I think, again, that's going to be a real good positive as we meet with each of these communities as we go forth in looking at the potential of land uses and development in these upper county exits, is to get a consensus from the towns that these are the type of industries and businesses that we want to see. So that we know, so that we're not going out attracting something that is not going to meet with the approval of the local communities, for that to happen. So again, we want to continue to undertake and do the outreach in these particular areas. We finally have received state approval for a revolving loan fund, as well as these are three of the areas that we are highlighting. One of them was Seamless Gutter, that you may recall had a fire earlier this year. Unfortunately, there was an issue of lack of insurance, and we were able to provide some interim financing for Seamless Gutter for their assistance in the town of Queensbury. And you see their little signs out and about, during their gutter work in the town, in the town of Queensbury. There we go.
Mind your way.
No, that's okay. I know you're trying to block these PowerPoints there, Craig. Also, what we want to kind of do is move ahead with our efforts in 2017 and look at a number of projects that we have going on in our particular area. We've talked about downtown revitalization. Can't say enough about the expansion efforts in the SUNY at Adirondack through the support of Warren County, the support of Washington County, and going into the workforce and technology area is vitally important for us to continue our area. And obviously the need to improve the water quality of Lake George with the wastewater treatment plant and the other incentives that they are undertaking. Again, in the healthcare, Hudson Headwater is expanding their downtown location. They acquired 90 South Street, right across from the hospital, to develop a women's wellness center. Glens Falls Hospital is undergoing another capital improvement with significant upgraded high-tech equipment in certain areas of medical treatment. There again, just as a re-emphasis of our exits going north, south into the northern parts of Warren County, to have this particular information along those exits, and the industrial parks that we want to try to create and further develop, which was in the prior slide in our area. One of the things that we're looking to do is to work with the Capital Region Film Commission to, again, it's a little niche, to develop some opportunities for additional filming into our area. And one of the things that we want to do is create a database, whether it is for caterers, whether it is car rentals, van rentals, so that when a film or television crew looks to come into Warren County, we have that information available on a database. Yes?
Any progress on the tax credits?
Yes, the tax credit was signed into law by Governor Cuomo, so that we are in parity with the other surrounding communities. Our thanks to the governor, Senator Little and Dan Steck, and Kerry Warner, who supported that legislation for us. Our round 6 included some monies on trail development for the North Country, for the Adirondack Pub, John Carr in Lake George, for the Park Theater in downtown. And there is our picture that we want to be able to change and have alternative traffic patterns in that exit area. Warren County Trails and the proposed State Trail is something that, we talked about briefly a moment ago. Wayne has done a terrific, job working with the First Wilderness Trail, in putting that together, and really Warren County has been out in front years ago before the state decided to connect all of these things, together. Now what we've got to do in the lower half is make sure that the city and the town are connecting, into the east, into the Washington County system, and south into the Saratoga system, following a master plan that was developed about 2003 by Alon Design of Saratoga Springs. Those were some of the special events that we participated in and undertook this past year in 2016. There is a list of folks that are working with us, and our thanks to John and Jen and our entire staff, Elaine, for making EDC continue to operate. You have our information. And the next thing to do, I like to do, and I'm going to close this out by just passing this out today, Mr. Chair, is our annual report.
Thank you.
That's the report. You can take time to read this when you have an opportunity. But again, it's highlighting some of our activities and events and looking forward and doing this with, again, acknowledgement. And again, I'd like to say I thank Warren County for your continued investment and support for EDC activities as we move.
Supervisor Brock, do you have a question?
Yeah, at the governor said he's gonna build the bikeway trail. Is that part of your?
Well, we will work. Wayne has taken the lead through the First Wilderness Trails, which has gone through the western part. We will sit down and work so that we're not doing, we're not overstepping each other on those particular areas.
Well, what I heard was that they're gonna go on the east side of Lake George. Is there any way of including the west side of?
Well, the west side the west side, the beauty there is the First Wilderness Trail has gotten state funds that is gonna go all the way down and continue to make improvements into Saratoga. So at some point, that's going to meet on the east side.
The west
So on
side?
the west side is continuing to develop
Right.
along the western side into Saratoga, much like the train system.
All right, okay.
And so at some point, they're gonna be able to meet.
So it'll be doing what I sort of, so it'll be both sides of the
Yes,
lake, yeah.
we're gonna have the opportunity both sides, and also within Queensbury, John continues every day to develop a new trail, in the town of Queensbury. Glens Falls, we want to expand to make sure we have all the connections we can in Queensbury, as well as going east into Hudson Falls and Fort Edward, and then looking to connect better with South Glens Falls and their trail system. The town of Moreau, under the prior administration of Preston Jenkins, it kind of started the process of developing extensive trails in the town of Moreau, and that connects into Fort Edward. So there's a lot of activity and interest in that area.
Now, have you bought a bike with EDC on it, or?
Not yet. Not yet.
Or a helmet with EDC?
We're working with a new helmet company. They come to the area for bike helmets, seriously, in this area.
Great, thank you very much. Trying to stay on time here. Can,
Motion to adjourn.
go ahead, yes.
I got a question.
Good.
Similar to what Supervisor Montesi asked about Packer, can you tell us what's happening with Grace Note? That's changed ownership yet again. That was a rather large project. And then I have another question after that.
Grace Note, you probably weren't here when I mentioned that Grace Note, we expected that sale to be completed first quarter of 2017. And we've had conversations with Nielsen folks, and it indicated that we stand ready to see if there's any particular needs in the area of workforce training in terms of their multiple languages, so that we want to make sure if that's I believe that the management, has been the new management is going to be very supportive of our local, group here. However, you never know when there are transactions and sales, to make sure, and that's why we immediately reached out when we heard that they were going to be sold. They've been actually kind of through a private, auction, if you will, or bid since this, last year. And Nielsen, was in the final, ranking and, came out and really matches more, the area of compatibility than Gray Snow, in terms of the original owners from Silicon Valley and so forth. This is more, the corporation, Nielsen, is based in New York. It's going to be much easier than working out of, California. So I'm confident, but we want to keep pace with it because those are 350 plus well-paying jobs up there that we need to pay attention to, Travis.
And the other question was, you asked me to meet with you about a year ago about broadband.
Yep.
And, we agreed that that's significant,
Yep.
particularly for North Country. An update on that.
We are, at this point, in the final stages. The state of New York has changed their program. What we're trying to do is combine 3 programs together, for funding. One program is the new increased funding from USDA that Senator Gillibrand and, Congresswoman, Elise have pledged to work on, that would provide additional funds in rural areas, including upstate, New York. The second program is the E-rate program, which you and I had talked about through the Federal Communications Commission, that would provide monies to schools and libraries, and the capital contribution or grant would be based on the, on the reduced or, no-cost, funding, food programs for children. So in the city of Glens Falls, about 48% of children have, free lunches or reduced lunches. So therefore, if you take that example, up in Warrensburg, I think the rate is around in the 40% percentile. That would be the capital share. The purpose of doing that is that you will create a hard wire around the school or the library, and depending on their, proximity, they would be tied together. But the beauty of that, from that, you then can expand off of that line by wireless that would connect into this hard wire. That would be done through the E-rate program, and the final, program is the Governor Cuomo's, New York Connect program. And the purpose of that really is to provide a subsidy to the provider. Without that, money, of about $170,000 to Frontier in North Creek, which Frontier then had to subsidize that by another 50%. They would not have invested their funds into the hamlet in North Creek. So in essence, the governor's program is a subsidiary, to the, corporation to require them to provide service in unserved and non-served areas. And it's recently come out that some of the mapping that has gone on, in upstate New York, unfairly characterized a greater percentage of availability of broadband and cell, which we knew was not, we knew that were not there.
So you still, see that as one of the chief, needs in
That's,
Orange County?
top priority.
Yeah.
From our perspective, is top priority.
And,
And that also ranges to gigabyte in the city of Glens Falls.
Yeah.
That, to do that, that would be combined with the other areas, in the North Country.
Now, you mentioned Frontier, hasn't Time Warner been less willing to use those funds?
It's basically Verizon was the leader in turning down funds.
Okay.
Senator Schumer has asked that those funds be programmed to other providers, in this area. Time Warner, of course, is going through the change with, their corporate, change in structure. So what our step will be is to figure out the funding mechanism in the next, few weeks, and then develop an advisory committee.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Just go ahead. Chairman, yes?
In the state budget, there's lots of different moving parts in the state budget, but the one element that's in there of particular interest to me is the water improvement fund, which is focused on sewer and water. You're identifying here the village's sewage plant needs, and I know you're aware of other
Yes.
infrastructure needs in Glens Falls, and other towns
Right,
as well.
Luzerne, Gene Merlino was here, and
Certainly
I
Bolton
mentioned that
also.
earlier.
If, you need any support, if you plan on doing a mission in Albany or anything like that to, lobby for that program and looking for some folks to go, count me in.
We will do that. What we will need to do is we had a conversation a few weeks ago, when we talked about putting together some key priorities from the Warren County perspective to, work with, our state legislators in Albany, as well as taking a portion of that and going to, our friends in Washington.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I ran over.
Just before I forget, I want to welcome Rachel and Claudia back to Warren County. We have people that travel to Washington D.C. to participate in this great democracy we have. So I thank both of you for your participation. Thank you. We get a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Beatty, seconded by Supervisor Sokol. All those in favor? Aye.